We are speaking with Marcy Winograd from Los Angeles. I still always think in terms of PDALA, Progressive Democrats of America of Los Angeles, but no longer. You have left the fold of the Democratic Party and gone to the Green Party, and after having been a candidate for Congress in Democratic primaries and done remarkably well against a well-funded incumbent as a peace candidate, why the decision to go to the Green Party?
David, it wasn't an easy decision, and it was one that I wrestled with for probably quite some time. But at the end of the day, the short answer is that I really didn't want to be aligned with a war party any longer. Even if you're an insurgent in that war party, you're still in it. And as an insurgent, I challenged Jane Harman. She was a big hawk, supporter of the military-industrial complex. I was on the floor of the Democratic Party Convention in California introducing resolutions to end the war, the assaults on Iraq. I was shut down. Quorums were called. It was a quorum call. I introduced resolutions to censure senators like Dianne Feinstein when she waffled on whether waterboarding was torture. There are many struggles to engage in as an insurgent within a party, and I'm not saying that they're not worthy and they're not of great value, but at this point in my life, I really want to live inside my skin. I want to be authentic, and I also want to look toward the future. Face it, the American empire is declining. This is it. We are collapsing, and we are watching the collapse of the U.S. empire. How long did it take other countries? Well, for some it took a century. For others, it took just a few years. Look at the Soviet Union. 2 years for the Soviet Union to collapse. A year for Portugal. 8 years for France. 17 years for Great Britain. There are historians. I interviewed one on Connect the Dots, Dr. Alfred McCoy, who wrote in The Nation magazine, who predict that by 2025, it's over. Just 15 years from now, the empire will be over. So given that, the U.S. empire, with its military bases in 3/4 of the countries of the world, is just not sustainable. It's imperative that we look to our future and embrace something positive. We know what we don't want. What do we want? And that's what attracted me to the Green Party.
Well, clearly the U.S. empire could end in a variety of ways, some softer and easier than others. Do you think that the Democratic Party, and in particular President Obama, are better or worse or about the same in relationship to the Republican Party and George W. Bush in terms of the manner in which the empire is overextending itself and moving toward its collapse? In other words, would we be better off in these final years of empire to have the Democrats doing it or the Republicans?
That's a very tough question, isn't it? I know that I will not be voting for Barack Obama for president, and I did support him when he ran previously. This time I'm going to be voting for the Green Party nominee because I really do want a different vision for our country. And now is the time for us to speak out and say this is the alternative vision, a party of nonviolence, a party that opposes weapons sales to other countries, a party that wants to build sustainable communities and invest in our communities, not extract wealth and send jobs to other countries. I think at the end of the day that it's very dangerous to have somebody in the White House who people don't necessarily know or understand and who may project an image of conciliation and partnership, but in reality is escalating what began under former President George Bush. I'm talking about this, quote, war on terror. Right after Obama took office, he escalated the drone attacks on Pakistan. We now have an increase in Joint Special Operations Command forces in other countries, from 60 countries under Bush to 75 countries. We have codified indefinite detention, extraordinary rendition, and targeted assassination. We have moved beyond what was considered under the Bush administration as an order for hot pursuit. In other words, if somebody attacked us or an ally, we could cross a border in hot pursuit. Now the whole world is a war theater under Barack Obama. So I'm afraid that under the Democratic leadership, both in Congress and in the White House, we are not seeing what we think we want to see or what we think we are seeing. Instead, we're seeing increased militarism. So I think it's very dangerous to think that this is an alternative path. In fact, I think under President Obama, we've seen the Democrats able to advance a Republican agenda, at least on the foreign policy front, better than the Republicans could.
Now, there's no law of physics that prevents us all from going and voting for a decent candidate, including the Green Party's candidate. But assuming that history being some guide, most people just won't do that this year. How can a presidential campaign and the work of a political party based around candidacies help to advance what I believe, and I suspect you believe, is more important, and that is the activist movement, year in and year out, that seeks to move the whole country in a better direction?
Well, as I mentioned in my commentary that you aired earlier, I think we need to support organizations like Iraq Veterans Against the War, Veterans for Peace, any organization that is explicitly and openly challenging militarism, be it with anti-war coffee houses, with protests, with organizing alternative visions for the future. And rather than get caught up and invest all this energy in volunteering for a presidential campaign that really is not going to change much, the forces of a collapsing empire have already been put into play. And so our role as activists is not to try to save the empire, but to say, look, we need to move in a different direction, and we need to do it now, and we're no longer going to go along with this war agenda. We want to invest our resources. Rather than investing our resources in building more weapons and weaponizing space and more unmanned drone attacks, we want to bring the money home to our schools. Look at what's happening with our educational system. It's being ravaged. We have massive layoffs. Thousands and thousands of layoffs of teachers in Los Angeles, the second largest school district, I believe, behind New York in the nation. Just locally, in my own city of Santa Monica, we saw efforts to create a two-tiered system at our community college and to lead the way for other community colleges to charge more for coveted classes that students crowd into and say, you know what, if you can afford it, you can take it, and if not, too bad. This was rejected by the students, who were then pepper sprayed by police when they tried to attend a trustee meeting to discuss this. We need to support our students who are challenging the privatization of education and to demand more money for our schools.
You've